Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Life Her Podcast. Today I have a pleasure to speaking with attorney Jonathan Breeden, a dedicated legal professional who has been serving families and individuals for over 2 decades. Since opening his law firm in 2000, Jonathan has provided compassionate, personalized representation in family law, including divorce, custody disputes, and adoption. He's also an advocate for helping people navigate legal challenges like DUIs and other criminal offenses. Beyond his legal work, Jonathan is passionate about helping people create a better future, whether that means overcoming a scarcity, a mindset, handling divorce without unnecessary drama, and scaling a business with the right systems. In this episode, we are diving into key topics like building abundance in life and business, strategies for the marketing and growth, and how to approach family law matters with a clarity and confidence. Jonathan, welcome to Life Her Podcast. So I'm so excited for this.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I've been listening to your show for several months since they told me I was going to be on this one, and I've really enjoyed it. I was listening to you this morning because I knew I was going to talk to you this afternoon, try to get the feel for it and stuff. And you're real, right? That is what you are. You are 100% real about how things are and how they should be.
Yes, I don't got time for to be sugarcoat nothing. But people need to hear that. It's just we all need to get straight to the point. We all need to get to know people on another level. And that's what I love about every guest that I have. I try to build something very comfortable for them to be themselves,
Well, that's great. That's great. And I have a small little podcast, a community podcast here in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina called Best of Johnston County, where I interview local politicians, local dentists, small business owners, beauty queens, Miracle League. I mean, all kinds of people, right? I learned so much by just talking to these people in my community. I learned so much about my community. I've always saw myself as sort of a connector. And, since I started the podcast about 18 months ago, it was just available on Apple and everywhere else you find podcasts. I've really become even more of a connector because I've met so many more people, and so many people come up to me now and they're like, "Oh, I saw your podcast," and I don't know these people. And you talk to my neighbor, my neighbor, the dentist, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was great." Like electric toothbrushes are rather than regular toothbrushes. Well, I didn't know that, but stuff like that. Like just try to give people some good information.
Yes, and we're doing that, okay?
No doubt.
Yes. So first and foremost, I know you started your business back in 2000. How has things been throughout that journey? Because a lot of times people think everything is okay. So I want to know how things were actually before you actually became an attorney.
I grew up, I'm currently a divorce attorney in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I grew up in a small town on the North Carolina-South Carolina line in Laurinburg, North Carolina, which is not far from south of the border. For those of you listening that have been down I-95 at the North Carolina-South Carolina line and seen that sort of Mexican-themed amusement park that they have there. It was an impoverished area of the world, but I didn't know it, right? I was just a middle-class kid. My father was a CPA. My mom was an emergency room nurse. So there was nothing extraordinary about this childhood growing up in this small town. I went to NC State, big university in the big city of Raleigh. Still a huge NC State Wolfpack fan, despite how bad their basketball season's been this year. And then I went to Campbell Law School, and the reason in Campbell's Law School at that time was in a small town called Bowie's Creek, population of like 1,000 people. It's now in downtown Raleigh, about a block from the Capitol. And I went there because I wanted to start my own law firm. It had a very good start your own law firm program. It was a very practical law school, and I knew from a young age that I wanted to be an attorney, and then I wanted to probably work for myself. My father was a CPA. He worked for himself, never made $1 million. But never went to work without a smile on his face because it was his. Whatever it was his. And that meant a lot. And I watched how he had control of his schedule, when he could come to all of my ball games and all of my plays and teacher conferences and all that. And out of mom, who worked at the hospital, she could come to a few, but the hospital is the hospital and you got to be there. And so, that made an impression. Like, my dad missed nothing and my mom got to what she could get to because she was at the hospital. So one of the things I saw in the small business was you have some control over your schedule. You don't work for anybody else. And if you want to go to your kid's ball game, you can go to your kid's ball game. And so I've sort of done that for myself now. I get to go to all my kids' stuff. I control my schedule. And that's been probably one of the great, other than, financial successes of the last 5 years, but that's been one of the great things that even when I wasn't having the success financially I'm having now, I still had control of my schedule. So I can still go to all my kids' stuff. And so that's been a lot of fun. And that's why I encourage everybody, if you could start a business, be an entrepreneur, do it, because that control of schedule is huge.
It is. It's definitely huge. The flexibility that you can have and the control you can have of boundaries, of dealing with people, not dealing with people, and just it's so much to it. I enjoy it myself. So I know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, just freedom, right? I mean, it's free, it's all about freedom, right? Financial freedom, freedom of time, and it's available to anybody, right? Anybody can start a business. Anybody can be successful. Like, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to have a law degree or any of the stuff I have. Like YouTube is free, and you can learn to do anything in this world on YouTube. Like, it is unbelievable what you can learn on YouTube. And I'm not, my kids are on YouTube like all day, every day. I'm not on YouTube all day, every day. But I know that anytime I've ever wanted to learn something, I had the answer within about 5 minutes.
Yep, that is so true. So speaking of flexibility and being able to do what you want to do when it comes to your business, a lot of people understand that portion of it, but more deeper within your business, what's been the most difficult challenges that you face as a business owner, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenges as a business owner have been dealing with my own anxiety, my own fears, my own limiting mindsets, the fear that I've got to make a number every month. And everybody that owns a small business knows what that's like. And everybody knows what that number is. And you have to get up on the first of the month. And for 18, 19 years, I got up on the first of the month. I didn't have a whole lot of savings. I had a business that was doing okay. And I had to hit a number every single month or I was going to come up short. And I had to pay my people first. And that is a very stressful place to be. I had business debt, I had personal debt, I had student loans, and that weighs on you. And I didn't understand, and I usually, whatever the number happened to be, I could find a way to make it, but I didn't understand how I was making it, right? I didn't understand the concept of leads and sets and shows and hires and average case values and referrals and all the things that I understand now. So if you understand that, then you know that it's repeatable. For 18 years, I had no idea how I could bring in somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a month. So I could keep a little bit, I could pay a couple employees, pay for a website, and pay my rent. No clue. I didn't know how many people were booking. I didn't know how many people were showing up. I didn't know how many people were hiring. I just knew that somehow I made some number that didn't really grow, but I could make that number repeatedly for 18 years. Now, of course, it was a lot smaller when I started. I didn't have any help, all that stuff. But the last 4 or 5 before this thing exploded in 2020, I needed to try to get $30,000 or $40,000 a month to pay the 3 employees I had, keep a little bit for myself, and pay for the website. But it was after we got a new website company in 2016. It was a legal website company out of Ohio called Postali. And I went from a website that was not working to a website that was working. It took me 2 or 3 years to figure out I got all these leads. Like, I had no idea how many leads I had, but man, I had a lot of leads. And I finally, in 2019, I'm like, I'm sending all these cases to Raleigh attorneys, and these Raleigh attorneys are sending nothing back to me. because they didn't have enough. And I had too much. I'm like, I got to find somebody to help me take some of these Raleigh cases because I'd much rather be in the suburbs than the city. The difference between practicing law in the suburbs and practicing law in the city is the difference between practicing law in America and practicing law in Russia. I'm being straight up honest. And that's every city in America. Like, it is a big difference. Business in the city and business in the suburbs, a big difference. In the suburbs, your word is your bond. I look in, I tell you something, you can take it to the bank. In the city, you better be looking, and you better be checking, and you better be, because it's just what it's the impersonal nature of it. You know, the more scrappy. There's too many lawyers in the cities. There's not enough lawyers in the suburbs, right? So the lawyers in the cities are trying to get every dime they can get, and that means if they're more unprofessional and more unethical, that's more they can charge because the case isn't going to work out. It's just, I'm not going to get on about lawyers in cities, but there is a difference, right? So part of it is, if you're going to start a business, what product are you going to serve, and then how are you going to market it to that person? But this business, once I figured out that I needed a coach, I had all these leads. I had no idea what I was doing. They don't teach a lot of business in law school. And I didn't understand what I was dealing with or how big it could be, because I was doing all of the work. So I was in the business, not working on the business, right? And so when you're in the business and you're looking at the cases and the facts, the judges and all that, you're not working on the business. Well, if you're not working on the business is not going to grow, because the business is going to go as far as the vision of the owner will take it. And you're not even looking at the vision, because you're just doing the work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And it's the same work over and over and over. It's like Groundhog Day.
Man. And it's so crazy that you talking about, like, as far as the business and law. I had the same lawyer, and he's more like a second dad to me, but he's been trying to get me in law for like 9 years now. He's been trying to get me to do it so bad. He think I will be the greatest person in the world, but I just told him I don't want those mental problems. I just don't, because a lot of you guys in law, you deal with a lot of things by dealing with a lot of people, and I just don't got that type of energy. I used to. If I would have did a long time ago, I think I'd be all right. But now, heck no.
You're better off keeping doing this podcast. But yeah, that's the thing. So you talk about so that was one of the big issues, is I didn't know how I was making the money, and I wasn't focusing on the business. I was working in the business. But once I hired a coach in 2020, because what I was looking for was scripts. I needed to be able to answer the phone and intake people in a consistent manner. And we were not doing that here. So I went looking for a coach, because I figured coaches had scripts. And boy, did I not. And I found a coach that had scripts, and a guy named Richard James, but I had no idea everything else they can teach you, from how to structure your leadership team to, I didn't even know what a CRM was, a client relationship manager, to manage the leads. No clue. I didn't know anything about offshoring employees. I now have 4 employees in El Salvador, 1 in the Philippines. No clue about offshoring employees, where to find offshore employees, what they could do for you, the money you could save by hiring them at because the dollar is so strong where they live, like just stuff like that. Like, so that's where the coaching came through. And I've heard other people on your podcast say this, and including the one I was listening to today. Everybody needs a coach.
Yeah,
if you're going to have a business, you need a coach. Serena Williams had a coach. Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer to ever live, had a coach. Jonathan Breeden got a coach. You very well may have a coach. I don't know. But like, if you're going to do this, get a coach.
Yeah. That's true. Indeed. And I know before me and you actually started this, you were telling me how people betrayed you and try to take your business and everything. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I have dealt with the same thing when it comes to business, and the way people view you when those people are like basically slandering your name and trying to take what you have, and they've done like examined you for God knows how long. They have been watching you and plotting, and you being a genuine person, and you actually, just doing so much. Like, how have you like even healed from that, or have you healed from it?
I think I have. I mean, the key thing is lawyers cannot do non-competes. Okay. Ooh. The U.S. Supreme Court says lawyers cannot do non-competes. Yeah. So there's nothing I can do to stop anybody who works for me from going out across the street and setting up to compete with me, which is fine. And I mean, I've had that happen. I had my fourth associate started in July of 22. And I had 3 associates that were here, and 3 of them left at the same time. One decided to get married and moved to Miami, and the other 2, one had been here 4 months and one had been here 6 months, decided that I'd given them 30 or 35 cases each, and they decided they were going to take those cases with them and go set up shop around the corner from me and take more than 50% of my business and over $100,000 of my revenue that I generated through my marketing and my advertising and my onboarding systems. And there wasn't a lot I could do to stop them. I could try to build a relationship with the clients and get them to stay. A lot of them did stay, but a lot of them did leave. And, of course, then those attorneys go out there and they got a lot of things to say about you and sort of help poison the job market for you trying to hire new people. But you're not talking about them. But here's the thing. There's plenty of business. I quickly was able to hire a couple more people. I now have 9. My ninth attorney other than me starts in 2 weeks. I now have 24 employees. And that's just 2.5 years. I just kept going. And so, yeah, when that happened, did I cry? Yeah, I cried. I sure did. Did I not sleep for 2 nights? Absolutely. But here's the thing. I'm a self-employed. I got a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage. I got other employees that have bills to pay that were looking at me. I had to do something. And, you can feel bad for yourself, but then you have to take action. You have to develop a plan, and then you have to do something. So what I did was I immediately went to try to save as many cases as I could. I immediately started spending more and more money on advertising for the position, interviewing people, LinkedIn, Wise Hire, all that stuff. I then kept the cases that I had, the ones that stayed with me. I worked them to the best of my ability, got more 5-star reviews because I did a good job for those people, got those people to keep paying me. Yeah, I had to go back to working 7 days a week, but you know what? It wasn't forever. And within 6 months, I was bigger and better and had replaced them and moved on. And within 12 months, both of them were out of business and gone because they didn't know how to make the phone ring, right? It's all real easy when somebody's handing you $10,000 cases when you don't realize how hard it is to make that phone ring through marketing.
Yes. And that's so true, because people that look at you on the outside, they want to walk in your shoes so bad and they want what you have so bad, but you only show them what they see. They don't actually see the full story of everything that you're doing. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And I sometimes I despise and I hate that people have that type of mindset, but at the same time, it's they can't help it. They not where they want to be in life. So they reflect you and look at you as them, and you're not them. You could never be them, and they could never be you. And it doesn't register to them like that, though.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, it hurt my feelings and stuff, but in the end, you have to let it hurt your feelings. You have to let it cause you to lose sleep, right? They were doing what they thought was best for them, which is fine. I knew that it probably wasn't going to work out for them, but if they didn't want to be here, I couldn't stop them. I wish they wouldn't have said some of the things they said to some of the other people in the community, but you know what? I can't do anything about that either. You know what I mean? I just do what I can do, right? I control what I think. I control what I believe. I control the work that I do. I control the services I do. And look, I'm not paying anybody else's bills and they're not paying mine. So just keep moving forward, right? And the thing is, you got to have an abundance mindset, right? There are unlimited numbers of cases out there in the divorce world in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, right? This is one of the fastest growing areas in America. It's the number 1 place to live in America by almost every ranking that there is, Raleigh, North Carolina. People are moving here right, left, and sideways. So, and unfortunately, they're getting divorced. So there's plenty for all of us. And that's the way you have to look at it. Like, okay, they took 30 cases with them. I got 25 hires in the 30 days after they left.
See? So how do you protect your business legally and strategically from people who might try to take advantage or try to do certain things? Because how did you pivot that to keep your business safe from people coming in from the outside?
Well, I mean, the thing is, they could only take the cases I had given them while they were here, right? They weren't going to get any new cases because they wouldn't have my marketing, right? So, what I did was, especially during COVID, was I didn't cut back on any marketing, right? I doubled down and built a new website. I continued to do the advertising I was doing. I continued to collect 5-star reviews. We started doing local service ads on Google, which is a version of pay-per-click. I continued to be in my community. I continued to be on the Little League board. I continued to be involved with civic groups and churches and stuff like that. So I kept doing the things that got me where I was, right? Those two people that were trying to take my business, they could only take what they had while they were here. They weren't going to be able to get any of the 25 cases I got in the 30 days after they left. So that's the thing. Like, I just kept going. Like, it was a blip, but ultimately I was stronger and better. They weren't right for me. They didn't want to be here. They didn't want to do it the way I wanted to do it. So, they got a chance to do it their way, and their way didn't work out for them. It is what it is.
Yeah, definitely is. So, like, many entrepreneurs and even professionals in law struggle with scarcity mindset. How do you shift from scarcity and to abundance mindset in your career?
The thing I've had to work on is it's numbers, right? Like, it's those numbers we talked about a few minutes ago. Like you have to recognize, even as a professional service business, which I am, I'm talking about accountants, doctors, any professional service, architects. I mean, you have to understand the numbers. You have to understand, because information, right? Anxiety and scarcity. Well, we're animals at our core, right? We've been around for thousands of years. We have to, we're making thousands of decisions a second, right? Am I hot? Am I cold? Are you dangerous? Do I run, fight, flight? Am I hungry? Like, all subconsciously, right? And so there is a natural scarcity that keeps you alive as an animal, okay? And yes, we have reason, but we're still animals. We're mammals, all that stuff. So the thing is, you have to then give yourself information and knowledge to overcome your fear of not having enough. And that's where starting to recognize that there is a science to the practice of law as far as a business, and there are numbers that are repeatable that lead to other numbers. So I know if I can set 50 consults in a month and 40% of the people hire me, I can get 20 hires. And if my average case value is $5,000, that would be $100,000 in revenue. And if all the people, and if we collect 97%, we'll get 97,000 of the 100,000. And if 2 of the 20 refer somebody to me, then I can count on that as 2 hires on the next month. And you can run this thing out on a calculator till the end of time. So, but you also have to know how many leads you have. So how many leads do you need to get 50 people to book an appointment and get 20 people to hire? And then what system do you have to collect so that they get bills and feel like they're getting good service and they pay their bill? And, how are you getting them to refer you? Are you asking for referrals? Are you talking about a culture of referrals? Are you doing a good job? Are you giving them stuff? Like all of that kind of stuff. And information is the key, right? I'm talking about stuff that would help law firms or small professional services, but it's all about information. Education and information is how you overcome scarcity and start to focus on the abundance, because everything you want in this world is out there. You just have to go get it. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's achievable. And you have to truly believe it's achievable. And you have to take steps every day to achieve it. How can you be 1% better every day? I know there's a book about a special needs adult who ran a triathlon. I think it's 1% better or something. Like, I don't know the name of the author, but like, what can you do today to be better than you were yesterday? And when it gets hard, and look, I had 3 employees in June of 2020. They all quit at the same time during COVID for varying reasons.
Man.
I had to start over. But like, once again, just like in 2022, like you just have to keep going, right? Because if you don't quit, you don't fail. And 98% of the stuff you're worried about today is never going to happen. So get out of this paralysis analysis stuff. Start making decisions to be better. Because if you make a decision to stay in a job you hate and doing stuff you don't like to do, and a marriage is not working, that's a decision as well. It's not just not a decision to be better. It's a decision to stay miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's so crazy because them feeling miserable, they try to make you feel the same way they feeling.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And look, somebody said, I'm not some author or whatever, but like somebody said, you're sort of the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. There's a lot of truth in that. If you're sitting around a bunch of negative people, that marriage isn't doing well, they don't like their job, they think their kids are a bunch of numbskulls or whatever, that's going to rub off on you, right? Get out of that group. And the other thing I tell people is when I found this coach, I was already one of the most successful attorneys I knew. When I found the coach, I got in that room, I was at the bottom. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Like, you're not going to grow and be challenged if you're the smartest person. Get in better rooms.
And you know what's so crazy what you saying, like being around 5 people with that same mindset. It's so crazy because I had like a strong feeling before being around people that are comfortable with their current lives, when you will want so much more, but they will criticize you for wanting more because their mind doesn't surpass what they see at that current moment. So once you step outside of that circle and go to another circle, that's when you become funny acting and they begin to get uncomfortable and not like the way you're moving and make it seem like you're the worst person in the world. And I always tell people that's going to happen each time you elevate and level up to different levels of life. You go through these things for a reason, but at the same time, it's always a blessing in the end, you know?
You're absolutely right. And, you probably should be changing friends as you level up.
Yes, you definitely should, because it won't work. It won't work at all.
Right.
So,
well, and now some of my very best friends are the people that I met in the business coach group that are working hard to scale their firms and provide a higher client service to their clients around this country, because they, I can't have a conversation with any of the attorneys I know about some of the scaling issues I'm having or the size of the scaling that we're doing, because they have no idea. And they don't even care for that matter. So, you want to be talking to people that are having the same issues that you're having, that are in the same boat you are, whether it be size, and stuff like that, maybe the same practice areas as well, as attorneys or CPAs or whatever. There's lots of different ways to be a CPA. There's auditors, there's taxes, there's, you want to be in groups, because, one of the first books I read when I joined the business coach group was Think and Grow Rich. And I read it twice. Yeah. And the first time I read it, it made no sense to me at all. I was like, this is the dumbest book. But I came back 12 months later and read it a second time. And it was like completely enlightening. And the power of the mastermind and the thought that if you put a group of people together, you're going to be a lot better, because you're going to have the collective knowledge of the group better than the single knowledge of the individual. And that's how all these business coach groups work. And the masterminds is one of the reasons that I've been so successful, because I can bounce ideas off of other people and get their ideas and watch how they failed, and they can watch how I failed, and we can all be better together.
And those mastermind groups, I have discovered it. I always knew you had many mastermind groups, but since me podcasting and talking to different people, a lot of them were talking about mastermind groups, and I decided to join one of them. And it's the most enlightening, amazing, beautiful experience I've ever had, because it's like, I don't know, it's like a light just shine, like welcome home type thing.
Right, especially if you get into the right one. And some of the bigger ones that are in all 50 states for your listeners, if they're looking to get in a mastermind group, one is called TAB, the Alternative Board, and another one is called Vistage. And both of those are in all 50 states, I believe. I'm certain that they probably have in any city of any size at least one tab board and one Vistage board that you can join. They cost anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800 a month, and you can sit in a mastermind with other businesses like yours in your community and work it out and say, well, it doesn't have to just be lawyers, right? My business is no different than your business, right? We're all fighting the same things. How many leads, how many people are going to book with us, how many are going to hire, how much are they going to pay, what's my budget, how do I attract talent, how do I keep talent, how do I develop talent, what is my product, what is my overhead? Eggs are like $12 a dozen now, right? Like, yeah. You have, if you're doing manufacturing and stuff like that, but like, it's all the same. Business is no different, and people are not different. I've represented people from all over this world, every religion you can just about imagine, from all corners of the world. And divorces and marriage is the same. And domestic violence, unfortunately, is the same. And I don't care where you're from, what language you speak, what your religion is, it's the same.
Yes, that is very true. So I know you been into like family court, divorce, and everything. What is one of the worst experiences you have dealt with when it comes to divorces? Because those could get really ugly.
Yeah. I mean, divorce lawyers all have stories. The ones that bother me the most is when you have two people trying to rip each other apart, fighting over children, and nobody cares about the children at all. It's all about them and their feelings being hurt, that the relationship is over, and trying to punish the other side for the end of the relationship or for being slighted. And those are the worst, right? People just need to get along. I had a conversation a few minutes ago with one of my attorneys, and I just asked her, now we get the second generation of cases. I've been here for 25 years, and I was asking her, I was like, that now client's mom, that was a really bad case. Like, those parents were really against each other, and now the child's going through it. Shocking. And I'm like, I just wonder if those parents looking at it now feel like it was worth the fight and the money they spent, now that the kids are 22. Yeah, I think people should just try to get along, because here's the thing. If you badmouth the other parent in front of your child, you are stabbing them in the heart. They are half that other parent, and they identify with that other parent, and that is like insulting them. And nothing good is going to come out of you insulting the other parent, even if it's the truth and it's right, in front of the child, because that child is half theirs.
Yeah.
And you chose that child's parent. The child had no choice.
Mm-hmm. That when it comes to the children, it could get crazy. I have dealt with some situations with the men in my family, and oh gosh, it's terrible. It had gotten to a point that the mother wanted so much money a month for child support. It was just like extremely out of control. But it's so crazy because her character and her actions and her mouth got her in trouble to the point they end up getting 50-50 custody, and he doesn't have to pay no child support.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's just, like I said, yes. That's the thing that bothers me the most, is that, that people are not thinking about what's best for the child.
No, they're not.
They're only worried about themselves, and they don't like his new girlfriend, or they don't like her new boyfriend, and all of this stuff. And nobody's looking out for the kids, and they're the ones that end up suffering in any kind of high conflict case. It's bad enough their parents are going through a divorce, and then you throw in high conflict, and ultimately the kids end up separating from one or both of the parents when they grow up, and that's a terrible outcome. But that's what I see more often than not.
Yes, and it's really sad because they don't understand the burden they put on their kids, because it affects them mentally. It affects their schooling. It affects their growth as far as growing up as a child and everything. So it's kind of selfish for parents to really not consider the children and come to a common ground and understand it that makes it what's best for them.
Right. And we try to talk to them and try to get people to agree. And, but sometimes we're representing people and we're against people that are just truly sick and they don't, they have mental illness and they don't see it the way you and I would see it. It's because the mental illness is not allowing them to see it clearly. And so we have to deal with that a lot of the times too. And we deal with a lot more personality disorders than we do actual mental disorders. But a personality disorder is just as damaging and as harmful as an actual mental disorder. And the difference is a mental disorder would be like bipolar depression, something that is chemical in the brain that can be treated by medicine. A personality disorder like borderline personality disorder, narcissism, you think about
abuse.
Schizophrenia is an actual mental illness, but I'm thinking about there's so many. I think there's 14 personality disorders. The two we see the most are narcissism and borderline personality disorder. And the number one trait of both of those is it's not you, it's not me, it's you.
Yeah,
which makes it even more difficult. You know what I'm saying? So it's So I mean that's the thing. And personality disorders are often developed in childhood, often trauma in childhood, often when the mind is the most fungible between the ages of 4 and 6 and 13 and 16. Some trauma has happened that's caused them to develop this as a protection mechanism about something that's happening in their childhood, and it sticks with them for the rest of their life. And it's very difficult to treat personality disorders because they can't be treated by medicine. The only way to treat them is to treat them with regular sustained counseling and sometimes group therapy. And it's hard to get people that have them to go because remember, it's you, not me. So why do I need to go get help?
So like, what are some like strategies parents can use to prioritize their children's well-being and like during a divorce?
I mean, I think you have to recognize that the children belong to both parents, that they love both parents. And even if they're not seeing that parent on a regular basis for whatever reason, they're thinking about that parent every single day because that's half them, right? And I know it's just your ex-boyfriend or your ex-husband, but it's that child's father or mother. And they have a bond with them. And yeah, you moved on and you got a new man or a new woman and you're in a new relationship, but that bond between parent and child is still there. And so you have to be thinking about what is best for the child. And I'm not saying that the child, if the other parent's on drugs or drinking and it's a dangerous situation, that's one thing. But if it's just you're mad that you got broke up with and you don't like his new girlfriend or her kids or any of that stuff, get over it. Like just do something where this kid can be involved with both families, do both traditions of holidays, whether it's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, whatever it is. Like they need to be involved in those things because that's important. Family traditions, knowing your family, your cousins, all that is extremely important because once you grow up, friends come and go, but family's still there. And if you got a good relationship with your family and they're good people, they're going to be there for you. They're going to be rocks you can build around. But if you alienate half this child's family and they never get to know them, that's not fair to the child.
Nope. It's not fair at all. So what are some legal steps that can someone take to prepare for a smooth divorce or family child battle court situation?
I mean, I tell people that they need to educate themselves. At the first thought that this relationship is not going to work out, you need to start educating yourself. And, my website, we get thousands of visitors a month. I wrote a book, Divorce Law in North Carolina. So if you happen to be in North Carolina, you can download that book. It's got a pretty good overview of what's going on. In every state, divorce lawyers have written books that are free. You can download on their website. Find a book for free, or you can order mine on Amazon for $14.95 if you want to. You can download it for free from my website. But you need to start educating yourself. The next thing you need to do as part of that education is you need a budget. You need a budget for what if you stay where you are, or a budget for where you're going to go and what it's going to cost. Because here's the thing. It costs 60 to 70 to 80% more to live apart than together. And most people are living check to check. So all of a sudden, there's going to be 2 rents, 2 water payments, 2 cable bills, 2 cell phone bills, 2 car insurance payments, where there often is only one. And so you need to be thinking about a budget and how you're going to be able to support yourself with some help from the other side, or maybe not any help from the other side, particularly if they take off and, sort of go underground on you, so that you can protect yourself and be able to pay your bills. And that means your lifestyle might need to go down, and you might need to move further into the suburbs, and you might need to move to an apartment or a mobile home or something like that. But a roof's a roof, and you need a roof, and you need a budget to be able to take care of your kids. Because if you can't provide the basics for your kids, the other side is going to get custody.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for someone struggling emotionally with the separation and the divorce while also handling the legal side?
Get a counselor that's not your lawyer. An actual counselor who's trained to help, whether it be BetterHelp, or they do those. I mean, those are like $300 a month, and you do it on the phone or Zoom. They're in all 50 states. Or find a local counselor so that you can talk through the emotions you're going through. While they are unique to you, they are not unique to a counselor who sees them all day, every day. And they can help you develop some coping skills and some strategies to help you get through it, because it's going to be very, very hard. And, turning inward is not the answer. You need to turn outward and find your village to help you. And if you're in a domestic violence relationship where you've been eliminated from your village, because that's what abusers do, go make a new village. Reach out to your local domestic violence shelter. There's one in every county in America. Reach out to local things. Just search domestic violence shelter near me. 1-800 crisis lines, that kind of stuff. Start to educate yourself about how to get out of domestic violence situations and stay out, right? Because the thing is, if you've gotten yourself into one of those and it's really, really sad, there is a part of you that believes whatever you're being told, that you're a dog, you're ugly, you're fat, all this stuff. And that comes from a lack of self-confidence that probably came from somewhere in your childhood. And you're going to need to learn to better self-talk, more positive self-talk. Because even if you can get out of this one, if you're not having more positive self-talk and you don't think better of yourself, you're going to get right in another one that does the same thing.
That's so true. And that's a sad reality, because I've seen like different men and women, they get into a divorce and then they jump back into another relationship like instantly. But it's like no one take heed of getting counseling, having self-care, just anything of dealing with self. They just jump right back into something else. The same issues you had with the last one, you bring it right onto the next relationship, and you adding on to it with a different type of narcissist personality.
I mean, that's it. That's exactly right. Because you are going to attract what you attract because of problems that you have and the way you think about things. And you're going to run right back in. You're going to run right back into it. And you're going to try to prove I can get it right and make the other side jealous and all that stuff.
No.
You need to spend time on your own, get counseling, focus on your children, focus on your career. Men will be there whenever you decide you want to come back. There's always a man somewhere. We're talking to women. Whatever. I'm just talking about in general. I think people need to be single. They need to focus on their kids and their future and not get mixed up in another relationship immediately. That is a bad idea. I think you should take at least 12 months to figure out who you are, what you want to be, get some counseling, and get some more positive self-talk.
Yes, that is so true. It's crazy, Jonathan, because I've owned a daycare center for about 17 years now. And I swear to you, I've seen new mothers with newborn babies. The father will be in their life and everything. I swear they never last until the child is 1 year old. Before that child is 1 year old, they are broken up and they done moved on. And next thing you know, it's another baby coming, another relationship, and then once the next baby come, that person gone too. It's like, do anyone take a break?
I mean, that it happens. It happens. I've got those cases. I've got those cases where there's 4 children with 4 fathers, right? I've done those. It happens.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's I mean, it does. So, but people just need to educate themselves and work on. And like I said, every separation, I don't care if you're married or not, divorced, whatever. If you'll have a child together, it's the same thing. And you're going to be connected to that person forever. So the thought that you can just move on, no, that is not going to happen, because you're going to be connected to that person and you're going to see them at weddings and all kinds of stuff for the rest of your life.
Yep. And that's true. So looking back on your career and business journey, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier?
You need to know those numbers. You need to know how to create, how you are creating the business that you're doing, right? Like I was an early adopter of advertising. I had one of the very first websites in my community, stuff like that. Like I was sort of cutting edge on all of that. But if I would have understood the numbers sooner, if I would have understood leads, set, shows, hires, paid in full, referrals sooner, I could have scaled it that much faster. And so I think that's the key. You've got to know what your cost of goods, if you're providing if you're selling something, whether it's on Etsy or whatever, cost of goods served. The other thing is, don't charge what everybody else is charging. Charge what you need to make a profit, and don't worry about the rest. And if I'm the most expensive attorney in my area, the other attorneys are jealous that I can charge 25 to 30% more than they can, hire brand new attorneys that have not 1/10 of the experience they have, and do just as good a job, get just as many 5-star reviews or more, and provide that much a better service. But it's because I charge the right fees, which means I have enough people to provide a high level of service, and we make providing customer service a core part of what we're trying to do.
Man, that's amazing, Jonathan. I'm proud of you myself.
Well, thank you.
Shoot. So if someone is struggling with major life transition, whether it's divorce, business challenges, or anxiety, what would you say to them?
Get a counselor. I've been in counseling for a long time, and I'm still in counseling, and I have to deal with anxiety all the time, right? And I mean, I have to work on it, right? I have to work on it because it's a part of me, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. But I think getting a counselor, somebody that's on your side that you can talk to and talk to them on a regular basis, that gets to know you and your thought pattern, that can look at you and say, that's not reality, right? Because there's this thing out there called, there's the truth and your truth.
Yeah.
What is it? Because the actual truth and your truth often are not aligned. And when you're telling yourself your truth, you got to have somebody to tell you the real truth, or you're not going to be able to move forward.
That's so freaking true. My mom used to say that to me. That's crazy.
That's what my wife does. My wife gives me the real truth, and that's important, right? I got a counselor and a wife and a consultant and a supervising attorney, and every day all 4 are telling me the real truth and not my truth. And that's what makes me better. It
does. It really do. So what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your work and personal life?
I just want, and I love going on these podcasts with you and other podcasts. I think I've probably been on 20 podcasts now. And I love doing this because I want everybody listening to this to know that they can be whatever they want to be, whatever they think they want, whatever amount of money is out there. It is out there waiting to go into your pocket. You just have to go do it. Get out of this limiting. We go to school K through 12. I go to college. I get this job. I work for somebody else for the next 40 years. I retire. All I got is Social Security. Then I die. That is what society teaches. That's what society needs 90% of the people to do. Get out of that. If you're not happy, if that's you, great. But if you're not happy where you are, come up with a plan. Take 6 months. Decide. Learn a new skill. I listen to a ton of mindset podcasts. I like your podcast. I listen to the Mindset Mentor with Rob Dow Jr. That's a great mindset podcast. The Successful Mind podcast. That guy's a business. He's a business coach out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Listen to these things. Listen to these people. I listen to tons and tons of them. And I'm constantly learning, and it's absolutely free. I learn something every time I listen to your podcast. I listened to your podcast this morning. I was learning all kinds of stuff about finding your calling and stuff in this world, right? That was good stuff. So it's, that's the thing. But you have to take steps, and you have to keep taking steps, and you have to not quit when the first 8 don't get you to step 30.
Yes.
Because so many people think, oh, it's going to be easy. And then they just quit. Like if you took 6 months and you separated from the world and you said, you're not going to go to those bars and those stupid parties, and you're going to focus on learning a new skill using the internet and YouTube to provide a service or a product to society. When you came back in 6 months, it's going to be like Groundhog Day. Those same people are going to be doing the same thing. They're not going to even know you were gone, and you're going to be 10 times better.
Yeah. And that's the truth. And it's so crazy because a lot of times when you have those conversations and you say those things, it's so foreign to some people. And you can have like 10 people in a line and say what you just said, but at least one of them is really going to listen and take heed and actually do it.
Right. And look, if everybody did it, society wouldn't work, right? 90% of people need to get in the rhythm, right? You read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it goes through that whole thing. That's a good book. But it's a lot of it's about education, right? I read a lot of books. I read mindset books. I read Think and Grow Rich twice. I've read Joey Coleman's book on how to never lose a customer again. I read Joey Coleman's book on how to never lose an employee again. He's a reformed attorney, and they're fascinating about the mindset and what employees today want and what customers today want and what they expect. And people, if you own a business out there or you work in a business, you got to understand the customer right now is comparing you to Amazon. They hit click and Amazon delivers cold milk in 2 hours. That's what they expect. I'm not saying it's right, but that's the expectation that you got to try to meet.
That is so true. That is so true. So tell me, what's next for your law practice and any big goals or projects on the horizon?
Right now we're just trying to train up our new attorneys to be able to provide more divorce services for more people here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. I do think in the next couple of years, we'll probably move to other areas that are underserved in the state. We will not go into the cities. We'll stick to the suburbs. I'm kind of a suburbs kind of guy. So I think we'll keep doing that. I think I'm going to continue going on podcasts like yours. I'm trying to take some of on my podcast, every 4th or 5th episode, I talk about legal issues. I'm trying to take those podcasts and use AI and turn those into a book on family law. So that's a project I'm working on right now. And I probably, as this business gets to be able to run more and more without me, I'll probably start to go out and give speeches and just go talk to people in groups and stuff, especially as my kids get older and maybe go off to college, because I just love sharing what I have learned and and the success that I've had. And I want everybody to be as successful as I've been. And there's nothing special about me, but I had to work really hard on myself and not quit, because success is on the other side of pain, and you got to go get it.
You ain't lying about that. What's so crazy? I have those feelings, and I've dealt with a lot of pain, a whole lot of it. And all I see is myself elevating. All I see is myself taking things to the next level, meeting other people like-minded, like yourself and everything. And it brings so much clarity and understanding when you talk to people that's relatable to you on where they're at in life. And it motivates you to actually just keep going.
There's no doubt. And look, if people want to reach out to me and see what we're doing and some of the stuff we're doing, they can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn at Jonathan Breeden. That's Breeden. My law firm website, if you happen to be in North Carolina interested in divorce, is breedenfirm.com. We're on Twitter at Breeden Law NC. We're on Instagram at Breeden Law Office. I think I'm on TikTok as well. Okay. I don't know anything about TikTok, but we're out there. You can email me at jonathan@breedenlaw.com. Be glad to answer any questions about what I've done, give you any of the resources I have. I'll do anything to help anybody, because putting positivity back in the world is something that we can all do. And I think it's important.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for being on Life Her Podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. Maybe we'll do it again.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and also listening to us on audio on all major platforms. Thank you.
Welcome to Life Her Podcast, the podcast that guides you from the 9-to-5 grind to the freedom of your own path. Discover how to conquer life's challenges while pursuing your passions with unwavering faith. Because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So let's get to it.